Hey guys, and welcome back to Jay's and JJ's Kitchen. So today we're going to be doing some spaghetti. Um, so with that being said, I'll come back and show you our ingredients, and we'll get started with our spaghetti. Okay, so today for our ingredients, seems like quite a bit, but it's going to be broken down. It's going to be made simple, right? All right, so I'll start off with our meats that I put in my spaghetti sauce. I've got some sweet Italian sausage, ground beef, ground pork, right? I also throw mushrooms into my spaghetti sauce. Also, you can omit that if you're not a fan of mushrooms. That's fine, right? We're going to go with fresh tomatoes and onions. We're going to blend those. And if you guys seen any of my other recipes where I'm doing some kind of tomato sauce, I will kind of fry that down or cook that down until it thickens, right? So that's what we're going to do today. And then we're going to, well, for one of our seasoning, I'll give you my spices that I use. I've got sage here that I use to season my meats. Once I get those put together, I've got some onion soup mix that I also put it in the meat seasoning, right? I also chop up onions in my meat melody, I'll call it, right? And also for our sauce, we'll have parsley, oregano. We've got some Italian seasonings here, and we got some parsley also, bay leaves, thyme, salt. One more thing here, if I can find it. Black pepper, uh, a little sugar, and of course, if you're making spaghetti, you need your spaghettis. And that's basically it. What my little cheater here, if you can see it sitting off to the side, is one jar of store-bought spaghetti sauce. I make my own spaghetti sauce, but I will add in also a jar of store-bought spaghetti sauce. You can use your favorite. This is the brand that I kind of stick with. Uh, and basically that's it. That being said, we're going to start. We're going to get our tomatoes cleaned and blended. Get those in the pot with olive oil. Let me show you my olive oil also. That's my other ingredient that I didn't have out here. Olive oil, right? So we're going to get that, get those tomatoes and onions, some of the onions, a little bit of onions, bunch of tomatoes, blend it, put some olive oil down in the pot, get those started to cooking. Once they start to cook down, then we'll add our seasonings to season our sauce, right? That's basically going to be all of our Italian seasoning, parsley, basil, oregano, the Italian, the thyme, the bay leaves, sugar to get the bitterness off, right? And like I said, we're going to let that thicken to the point to where, basically to the consistency of a tomato sauce or a marinara sauce for your spaghetti, right? And like I said, then we'll throw in our last home store-bought spaghetti sauce. We'll have that done. Then we'll come back. We'll throw our mushrooms in there. Let those kind of simmer with the sauce, and we're gonna season our ground beef or ground meat, brown that, and then at the end we'll put that in there. Let that simmer. While that's simmering, we'll boil our noodles, and guess what? We're done. That being said, let's get started cooking. So, okay, guys, so we have our tomatoes that we blended. We've got those just take fresh tomatoes and put them in a blender. I've got a little Ninja blender that I blend everything up. Like I said, I added some onions to that. And here's our ground meat. It's about to say ground beef. It is ground beef, ground pork, and Italian sausage. So what we're gonna do is get this meat seasoned. Generally, I would have had my sauce on, or the tomatoes in the pot cooking, frying, or whatever. I would have added the olive oil and get that cooking. But just to show you guys, kind of changed up my routine a little bit. So we've got our onion soup mix here. Show you what I'm doing here. Our Lawry's, just to give us some seasoning there. Oh, our sage. It's a new bottle. I have not took the little top off of it, but we'll get there. Just to kind of give you an idea of how I kind of go about seasoning my meats, right? That top off of there, that back on there. Hit some of the sage. This is a new bottle. It's kind of packed up in there on me, but that's okay. We're gonna adapt and overcome. Get our sage in there. Black pepper. That should be good. Last thing we got to add to that is diced up some onions here. I always put chopped onions in my ground meat. Basic. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Basically, whenever I'm cooking ground meat, I've got chopped onions embedded in that. All right. That being like that, so we're going to get this all mixed up. That ready to brown this, and that's it for our meat. I just wanted to show you the process that I use of seasoning my meat, right? So I'm going to get this mixed up. I'm going to get those tomatoes right there that you see that I showed you that was blended. We're going to put down some the olive oil in the bottom of the pot and get that started cooking. And like I say, once we get that to a point to where a lot of the liquid have evaporated off and it starts to thicken, then we'll see what we're working with, and we'll get that our sauce seasoned. Once we get that seasoned, we'll add that, or probably I'll add that store-bought marinara sauce in there, and make sure our season is going to be consistent and get everything seasoned together. Get that once I add that in there and get that seasoned, and let that continue to cook down to the consistency that I'm looking for. And like I said, we'll add our mushrooms to that and get our meat brown and put it in there and let that simmer for a while. And our spaghetti sauce is done. It's just a matter of boiling our spaghetti noodles, putting everything together, and we're going to be done with this one. So that being said, remove these gloves and get our sauce started here, and then we'll brown our meat, and we'll be back and check in with you from time to time. All right, so I'm back to show you the starting of our sauce here, right? We got olive oil. Get a good layer of that in there. That should be good for what we're working with. Get that oil heated up a little bit before we add our tomatoes in there. I think the correct term from an African standpoint is frying the tomatoes or frying your sauce and everything. So we're going to get this heated up here. Right there. So get it cooking. This is all fun. So get that started. It's just a matter of adding our tomatoes in there, or our blended tomatoes. We'll add in the garlic and let that cook with it, right? Let that all kind of, as they say, fry together. And like I say, once that cooks down, once that started to cook down, we'll add our, where is it? Our jar of store-bought spaghetti sauce to it. And we'll add our seasonings to it at the same time. Let that kind of simmer and marinate together. Let that flavor get in there like we want it. In the process, we're going to brown our ground meat, and it'll be ready. So it's just a matter of then of dumping that into the sauce. And like I said, but when we get to that point, we're really, for all intensive purposes, we are done. It's just a matter of boiling your noodles. And yeah, you want to let that your meat and sauce kind of simmer. I would say 30 minutes or so, 45 minutes. The longer it sets, that flavor, goes in the meat, and whatever comes out of the meat goes into your sauce. And, you have a flavorful spaghetti sauce. So that's what we're going to do. Let me see if I got any heat here. Yeah, it's coming along. It's coming along. So we're going to let that oil kind of heat up there a little bit and kind of, yeah, it's getting there. It is getting there. Kind of like working with my little portable cooktops here, induction cooktops that I got. I ended up with these things. I was working a project in Maine, and there was no, at the time when I was up, there was no apartments or anything like that. I work in different projects where I'm there for, it varies. I could be there for a couple of weeks, or I could be there for a couple of years, anywhere in between, right? And so I happened to be in Maine for about 10 months, and the only thing I could find to rent at the time was an old school motel, which had, I won't say it was a kitchen, but it was one big room where they had a sink and they had a microwave with what I've never seen before, some cooktops that was actually on top of the microwave. And I'm like, okay, this will work. So I tried the little simple test was, okay, let's boil eggs. And it took like over an hour to boil some eggs. So I'm like, nah, this is not going to work. So that's where I came familiar with these little induction type cooktops. I've seen hot plates before. However, these work a lot better. The only, I would say, downside to it is you have to make sure that you have your cookware cannot be aluminum because it will not, an induction cooker will not work with aluminum type cookware. Has to be steel or either cast iron, and they work fine with it. So I say, but once you get to figure it out and you get there, these work actually good. That being said, okay, I feel a little heat there, so let's get these tomatoes in there. That's what we were looking for. Wanted to hear that little sound there. Got those tomatoes in there. Let's get those started. Add our garlic. And we are on our way to making our homemade spaghetti sauce. So basically everything I cook or sauces that I make, my barbecue sauce is also homemade. However, we're going to get there. We're going to do some ribs and briskets and everything, God willing, in the future here. And the only thing about that, I will show you how I do my ribs. I do a couple of ways. I smoke some, do the smoke, the dry, what I call the dry ribs, and I also do a wet rib, which I learned from my mom. I'll show you that process. However, I'm not to the point to where I'm willing to let go of my barbecue sauce. But that we'll talk about that in the future when we get there. We'll cross that road when we get there. Okay, so we got this in here. It's starting to cook, right? Put the top on that. Let that come up to temp and start frying. Like I said, we're going to cook it until it cooks down and it starts to thicken. We'll add our store-bought marinara sauce, season it, add our mushrooms, and during that time, we're going to brown our meat and have everything ready to add into it, and our sauce will be done. We'll come back and check on this from time to time. Okay, so we're gonna check back in real quick, basically. So we know we got our tomatoes, fresh ground tomatoes in the pot with the olive oil frying, right? So now we're gonna come back. Got my other cooker here, cast iron skillet here. We're gonna get our ground meat going here. Get this brown. Once we get this brown, we can kind of chill out for a minute, basically, and wait on our sauce to cook down. And we're moving on, people. Simple stuff. Simple stuff. One of my, I guess I can tell you one. This is my basic recipe that I use when I do my spaghetti. Sometimes I will. You guys want to get a little bit creative, or some of you guys may know about it, or have tried this already in your sauce, right? Don't be afraid to experiment and try to add like a can or two of a small can or two of cream of mushroom soup, right? Uh, Something I do from time to time whenever I feel like a little different flavor to my spaghetti sauce. I will go with a can or two of cream of mushroom soup, and it kind of sets it off. It's a good additive to a, you know, to kind of give you a change of a normal spaghetti sauce. So that's something you can think about. Put that on the shelf. Think about it, and whenever you want to try a little something different, just experiment. Give that a shot. Let me know what you think about it. Right? So this is our seasoned ground meat that we had. We're going to get this browned, and like I say, we can chill from there until our tomatoes cook down. So with the tomato thing now, I've got to kind of watch it and stir it from time to time because it will stick on you. I just wanted to show you guys the whole process. So that being said, once I get our meat brown here, I said we're going to check in on our sauce there, make sure it's not sticking, and we'll be back and show you our progress. Okay, guys, so our tomatoes have cooked down. Most of the liquid are kind of like cooked out of the tomatoes. You can see that because you'll see instead of once you start doing this, it's kind of difficult to explain, but you'll see you kind of end up with like I don't know, more so like of a crushed tomato or a little bit finer than that, and the liquid you'll have much less of that. Basically, no liquid. What you're trying to get to is no liquid, and you'll see the longer you let this sit here and cook, it will continue to cook down and dry out and really thicken up, right? So at this point, it's a good point for me to basically go in and start seasoning that, right? So that being the case, I am going to start seasoning my sauce. Okay, so we're gonna go in with some of our thyme. Throw in some bay leaves. One more should be good. Some of our basil. I kind of go and kind of like give that top a good coating. That way I know when I stir it in, we've got ample enough seasoning in there for what we're looking for, right? Got some oregano here. Our parsley. Same thing with that. Want to go through and make sure you got a good covering on it. You don't have to, but I'll go in with some of my, I got some Italian seasoning, so I'm going to hit it with some of that. Basically, your Italian is a mixture of the basil, parsley, and oregano. So we'll hit that. Next, I'm going to go with some sugar. Potatoes. Tomatoes are kind of bitter, but that's what you're letting it cook, trying to let some of that bitterness cook off. And to help that, this is what our sugar is going to do. Give it that little sweet taste. If you want a little heat, you can always add crushed red pepper. And by all means, during this whole process, it's not going to hurt. You know, like I said, give it a taste test, and make sure you're on the right track and you get it to where you want it, right? Mix this up here. Stir it in there. Get those flavors mixing together. And let it finish marinating together. Then we're going to add our store-bought sauce that we had. That in there. I had some more left over from the fridge. Just add that in there for good measure to get rid of it. Dash of a little salt there. I don't want to do too much of that, because what I'll do is come back and check my flavorings. And if I need to add some more flavorings, or if I want a little more salt flavoring to it, I'm going to show you what I will do. The black pepper in there. There again, get that mixed up in there. Let that kind of marinate together. Let that simmer. We're going to get this seasoned, right? Get everything mixed up in there and let that simmer. So our flavors can kind of get all mixed in together, right? Give that a taste test, and you can add from there. But where I was getting to, if you've seen any of my other videos, this is what I'm going to do. If I need some more salt flavorings, I'm going to add some of my chicken bouillon to it to give it that little extra spice, right? And this is good stuff, and it gives it good seasoning. So now we're going to let this simmer. We're going to add our mushrooms in, and basically let this simmer. And like I say, once this is cooked down to where we want it, we'll go in then basically and add our meat that we browned our ground meat that we brown. We'll add that to it, and that is our homemade spaghetti sauce. Simple as that. Like I say, you just you flavor it, give it a taste test. Anything that you need to add to it, just add that in there until you get the desired flavor that you're looking for. But that's it, folks. So we're gonna let this simmer, and we're gonna add our mushrooms to it. Matter of fact, since I'm talking and said that, I will do that right now. Got our mushrooms here. Add those to it. Like I said, once we I get my mushrooms in there. If you don't like mushrooms, by all means, omit this step. And just like I said, just let your pot. Once you get that season, your spices in there, let that simmer, and let those flavors come together. And then once you let that simmer and kind of cook down a little bit, then you can add your meat to it, your ground meat, and this is done. That's the end of you got your sauce finished. All that's left then is boil your noodles, and once you get those done, hey, you guys have spaghetti. All right, so we're gonna let this simmer, and we'll come back and show you our finished product.